Hey guys, producer Steve here. Just wanted to give you a heads up that the audio on this episode isn't quite up to the standards that we usually like to keep. We're kind of in the middle of moving platforms that we use because we do record the podcast remotely, and a last minute technical issue with our usual platform and the need to accommodate an extra guest made things a little bit complicated. So we got everything together and got the episode recorded, but not quite the same audio quality we're used to. We'll be back in regular form soon. Thanks, guys.
Hello, everybody. This is David G. Gerlitz. I'd like to say the David G because the Gerlitz nobody understands. I'm the former Winston man, and you are with DavidGModelCitizen.com, brought to you by Pinnacle CBD and VapesGoneWild. And I'm really glad that we were able to get our technical issues done tonight because we've got a couple new things to introduce tonight. We've got, of course, my buddy Kevin Crowley in Ohio. We got Steve Mathis in production, taking care of all of our technical stuff brilliantly. We have a glitch. He works it out. Added to that is somebody you met last week. The week before, Paul from Australia in Sydney. He'll be joining us in a little bit. But tonight, we have a new exciting introduction to make. I talk about Pinnacle CBD all the time, and I've got one of the owners of Pinnacle and my partners, CBD, and the questions that people raise because there's just so much negativity about CBD. A lot of people don't know what it is. They scratch their head. They say, what the hell is it? It's going to get me high. But Jessica is going to break it down a little bit for us. But tonight, I just wanted to wish everybody a great Labor Day week. Not sure when this is going to air. Based on what Steve can get it up and get it downloaded. But we're going to talk tonight about a few things that got me a little upset this week that I think are important because it has to do with not only vaping, but the concept of, wellness overall. We were in Richmond last week, and I was with my family, my Pinnacle family in Richmond, Virginia, with Jessica and her husband, Kevin Lacey, who had a great booth, who had problems from the get-go. Their booth never made it, wasn't shipped in, so they rigged it to where they were able to get by. And there's always something that seems to go wrong when we go to these shows. And, Kevin and Jessica just take it on the chin, and they just rise above all the nonsense. And we had a good show in Richmond, but of course, every show we go to, there's always a little drama. In Mobile, Alabama, they weren't allowed to sell CBD when we first got there because of the gray area of the Alabama CBD laws. And then this weekend, we had the drama of Vaping Legion coming in and being thrown out because the promoter didn't like the fact that he was going around causing trouble. At least he said he was. I was on the panel, so I didn't get to see a whole lot of the drama, and I don't know if Jessica or Kevin did, but it just seems a shame that we have to waste our time and energy on all the bullshit that goes along with some of these conventions. And I know they're necessary. People like Pinnacle, has done really well in them because that's how you get your name out along with social media. And then you have things like this happen where some guy gets thrown out by police escort because he was pissed off that there was a booth there from Mama-san who had a child, infringement. It was based on leading children to vaping because it had Graham Slam on it, and I guess it was referring to the cereal. And under no certain terms does the FDA want any advertising in any way, shape, or form where it targets and markets kids with either candy or cereal or flavors or things like that, or food. So I understand that there's a dilemma here, and we need to work it out. But we've got to find a way to grow up, be mature, and self-regulate ourselves. We certainly don't need labels and booths with pictures on it with candy and food and things that might, be interesting for kids to look at because it can be dangerous, obviously, if kids associate, vaping e-liquid with food or cotton candy or berries. And I can see where the FDA would get pissed off. And I can see where the 14 letters that went out early in May telling people to cease and desist advertising and marketing to kids, even though it may not be that, because adults certainly like flavors as well. And Kevin, what's your opinion on that? And I don't want to get off on a tangent here because we got a lot to talk about tonight with Pinnacle CBD. But what is your thinking on that? And did you hear anything about the Richmond train wreck?
I saw the Facebook posts. I viewed it. I didn't comment. I didn't like anything. I don't personally think anybody's marketing to kids, but the FDA says we are, we being whoever, and cut that shit out. Stop it. That's it.
Exactly. I mean, there's no reason. You can find other ways to have a graphic designer, put your brand to whatever it is, and it doesn't have to be, a vanilla wafer called Nilla wafer. It doesn't have to be called,
Right.
Oreo cookie, or it doesn't have to be called SpongeBob. So, yeah, adults certainly do like flavors. Just look at the amount of vodka we have for adults, through that's available. But I agree. Even Juul doesn't market to kids, but since kids are certainly using them, that's the first flag that gets raised. So it was just a shame that we had a good weekend. I was on the panel down there on Saturday, and I was there with 3 lawyers, and I was there with a lobbyist, and I was there with Jay Taylor, the president of the Virginia Smoke-Free Association, and one of the other members from John from Vape Guys. And, we have about 8 to 10 minutes, and this is the other pet peeve I have. We have 8 to 10 minutes to tell who we are and what activism or advocacy is all about. And, they make the announcement. Rod from Vape Radio announced that they were going to have the advocacy portion. He begged people to come over for about 45 minutes, and you get 15 to 20 people who show up, and they stand, usual suspects. And then Rod did something that I thought was pretty cute. He just went ahead and said, you know what, we got free beer over here. So when he made the announcement, we have free beer, we started getting the crowd built, and so it's just indicative of, what I said in the movie, A Billion Lives, Nobody Cares. I'm going to retract that and say not enough people care. So it was just a shame that we went down there, and Pinnacle was there in great form. VapesGoneWild was there with my e-liquid, but to have this kind of negative shadow over us after we left, and we did do a good job, and they did raise $20,000 in advocacy or activism for the Virginia Smoke-Free Association.
Awesome.
So but you don't hear about that. You hear about the negative shit, and you hear about the things that people are doing. Because as I say every week, 99 things are done right. Nobody knows. You do one thing wrong, everybody knows. So I agree with you. I don't think anybody's targeting and marketing kids, really. I think we're beyond that. I think nature has found a way to thin the herd. I heard Grim Green today on one of his live feeds. He was talking pretty much the same thing. And I think we concur in the fact that, even if it's leaning toward, kids, we need to err on the side of caution and just back it up, find a graphic designer, pay him a couple bucks, and do what a lot of people are doing. And that is making their liquid very generic, making their liquid very subtle, and certainly not doing anything to encourage them to, bring it toward as a gateway for kids to start using it. Well, tonight I'm going to talk to my lady friend here. All I can tell you is that tonight I want to be positive tonight. I don't get all ranty and bitchy, and because we got a lady on the podcast with us tonight who I met her and her husband back in January. They flew me out to Carthage, Missouri. And I fell in love with them. They're my second family now. It's Jessica Lacey and her husband, Kevin, the owners of Pinnacle CBD. They don't know the fact that I started using their product in July of last year before I met them. And I kind of didn't want to let them think that I was just bullshitting them, basically, by telling them I wanted to be a part of their family and what they were doing because I believed in their product. But tonight we got, the host of our show, the sponsors of our show, is Pinnacle CBD. And tonight I'd like you all to welcome Jessica Lacey. Jessica, you there?
Yes. Hi, Dave. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Princess. I call her Princess because she wears a tiara. And and they have their offices out in Carthage, Missouri. They have several stores for e-liquids and their CBD. And Jessica, thank you so much for, being a part of what I'm trying to do. Kevin Crowley knows all about you. Steve Mathis knows. Paul over in Australia, he'll be joining us in a few minutes. He knows about how I feel about you guys, and I feel like I'm a poppy to your kids, and I love them, and and you're like my daughter. So basically, I just wanted to welcome you tonight, and I wanted Kevin to hear what you have to say. And I'm just going to ask you a couple questions because this is our kickoff for CBD because we talk about CBD every week. But I think there's a lot of confusion going on, Jessica. There's a lot of people that, they still think of CBD as marijuana and the reefer madness.
No.
And it's not. But basically, I'd like you to give us just a little thumbnail sketch of, what you know about it and how you got started and a little bit of your history as to how CBD became a part of the Lacey family.
You mean a staple in my life?
A staple in your life, yeah. So if you could just tell me and the listeners and Kevin and Steve and Paul,
of
exactly.
Course.
Yeah,
no problem. Please? Yes, no problem. First of all, CBD is not weed. It is a cannabidiol. It is one of 113 cannabinoids found in the hemp plant. So how we get CBD is we extract from the hemp plant 113 cannabinoids.
Okay.
Out of that, however, people think, okay, this is weed. Well, in 2014, you all know they passed the Farm Bill Act. Right. For federal hemp, or federally rather, and right. We are allowed to have a 0.3% THC or less. Okay, our lab results, I think ours come in at a 0.02% or something like that.
Right. So you're well under the federal guideline.
Yes, but the great thing about that, it is non-psychoactive. You're not going to feel that stoner feel. You're not high. So no, this product does not make you high.
Right.
That's what you're looking for. Go somewhere else.
Okay. Now, this is all done through testing and the clinical trials and all this, because we talk about it, and there's a lot of different CBDs out there. You got a lot of competition, but a lot of them aren't as good as full spectrum versus isolates. And having done this for a long time, I know the difference, and I know you know the difference, but I don't think a lot of people do. Everybody I talk to, when they hear that I'm on the CBD wave, and I believe in it so much, and I tell everybody, I just had surgery a month ago, as you know, guys, and Jessica, and I had to take my pain meds for a day and a half. I was operated on Tuesday, the 31st of July, and I had my pain medicine that day, and I had pain medicine on Wednesday, and at Wednesday night, day after my surgery, I stopped it, and all I did was take CBD and Tylenol. I did take some Tylenol, but I did not have to take any pain meds, and I feel very, very strong about the fact that I was able to push through it. Yeah, would a pain pill probably have helped? Yeah, but I've been trying to titrate myself for 15 months, and there's no way that I wanted to get back into it. So people say to me, well, Dave, you didn't take your pain med? No, I took CBD, and I take it under the tongue, and I put it under the tongue to where, because I don't vape so much. I mean, I do vape, but I vape zero nicotine. So I'm not a typical vapor that you would be using as a barometer. So when I use it, Jessica, do you find that most of your customers, when you sell to stores, are they vaping the CBD, or are they putting it under the tongue? And tell us the difference between sublingual, tincture, and if you can.
Everybody is different. There is no two people that are alike. We have a variety that use it sublingually, which is under the tongue. We have a variety that vape it. I couldn't give you a guesstimate on the numbers on who's who, but you can do it either way. We also have some people that apply it topically, or they'll put it into their lotion, shampoos, and you can do that with our CBD.
Because not everybody who uses CBD vapes. So therefore, there's got to be a way to do it. And that's why I came up with you guys, and I came up with the idea that, because I was using it under the tongue. And, and for a lot of people, it's kind of bitter. There is a bitterness to it. It's like earthy, I guess is the word. I don't want to say it tastes like dirt, but, CBD doesn't have, any sweetness to it until you flavor it. And that's why I came along and I offered and I wanted to put my name on something that you guys were able to manufacture for me and infuse with flavors, of which I have, because a lot of people, when they quit smoking, they also need something else to help them get through their other stress levels, because smokers generally, when they quit smoking, aren't healthy in other areas of their life. There's stress, there's fibromyalgia, myalgia rather. They may be coming off of, pharmaceutical drugs, and, they may get nauseous because their body's going through withdrawal from nicotine because they've gone from tobacco and now they're down to 3, 6, or 12 milligrams of nicotine. So there's a lot of reasons why adding CBD to your protocol is a wise thing. So I just wanted to make sure that people know that when you buy Pinnacle CBD, that it can be vaped, if you are a vapor and you choose to do that, or it can be put under the tongue. Now, is there a loss of benefits when you vape it, Jessica, versus under the tongue?
Well, our records do show that if it's heated up to like 80 degrees or so, that there can be some chemical reaction there.
Okay.
Well, it'll take away from the chemicals rather.
That's what I mean. It's going to lose some of the benefits
Yes.
if you heat it a little bit and vape it, because it's also going to get absorbed more into the lung than into the bloodstream. Is that an assumption that's correct,
Well,
what you think?
yes, it is. But what happens is the heat, it can damage some of the cannabinoids in
Right.
there. So
I
you're
love it
not
when you
getting,
talk dirty.
you're not getting the full benefits of a full spectrum then.
Okay,
So,
good.
I mean, we personally recommend to take it orally or sublingually, but everybody's different.
Okay. Now, a lot of people want to know about the dosage, and we're not going to get into that tonight because that's CBD, class 5. But CBD 101 is something that I have to talk to everybody that I know, everybody that knows what I do now that they see me associated with Pinnacle, along with my e-liquid line for David G. Everybody's wanting to know about it. I want to try it. Well, you just don't try it for shits and giggles. You got to have a reason for trying it. You got to find a way to, see how it's going to benefit you as far as a wellness factor. Now, Kevin Crowley, you never use CBD, am I correct?
No, never have. Never
And
at all.
you've had no need to use it for any reason other than, you're young, man. What are you, like 60?
50. But
50.
I used it with my wife, so Jessica's a perfect person to ask. We went to a shop, we spent the money, and I was like, hey, that's crazy. It's 100 milligram. She tried it for, I think, 4 or 5 days, noticed no difference. We never went higher. I was thinking nicotine milligram. So
Right.
should we have gone higher for her to find benefit in it? Or
Okay.
you just answered part of the question. It was diminished a little bit with the vape because she was vaping it only.
Yes. Okay. So first of all, we have our milligrams range. They range from 150, and this is just on our actual oil. We do have gummies and other things. But on the actual oil, even our 1200 milligram, we only recommend 20 milligrams a day.
Okay.
So you said it was how much?
It was 100.
100 milligram bottle.
Oh, okay. I see.
Am I right, Kevin? I'm not putting words in your mouth, but was it a 100 milligram bottle of CBD that you bought?
Yeah, it was 100 milligrams CBD. It was, I'm sorry, I must have misspoke when I said that. Like
Oh,
18,
that's okay.
18 for me for nicotine. So we went to, they suggested 100, but these go in 100, 150, you said, 200, 300, 400, 500.
And don't get confused. Jessica, let me just answer this because I think I know because you guys taught me well. Okay. When you have 100, 150, 300, 600, up to 1200 or whatever, she's saying you don't take more than 20 milligrams a day. Okay. So if you had a 100 milligram bottle, don't associate it the same as you would as nicotine. Am I right, Jessica? It's the bottle.
Correct.
Okay. If you were to take, each drop, correct me if I'm wrong. Jump in, Jessica. Jump in. If you take a drop and put it under your tongue, Kevin,
Yeah.
that's equal to 1 milligram. Correct, Jess?
In the 300 milligram bottle.
In the
yes.
300 milligram bottle, that's equal to 1. So explain it to him.
One dropper full of our 300 milligram CBD would be 1 milligram of CBD to you. It's just
Okay.
like a dosing on an infant Tylenol bottle.
Okay.
Does
I
that make
gotcha.
sense?
Yep.
So
actually it does.
how many milligrams or drops was she taking a day, your wife, or vaping in her vape?
Like 2.
Two.
So yeah,
Okay.
2 little drops. That was it.
Yes, I would have recommended that she went up, but I also would have told her to try it in a variety of different ways. Don't just vape it. Take it sublingually, rub it on your skin, whatever you need to do. But yes, I would have told her to go up in milligrams.
Because if you vape it, if you vape it, a lot of it's going to get absorbed into the lungs rather than into the bloodstream if it goes in under your tongue. And that's what I found, because when I vaped it, I didn't get a whole lot of benefit from it. But once I started putting it under my tongue or putting it in my tea, or now we get the honey sticks that they have at Pinnacle. You just take the honey sticks and you open them up, put it in your tea or your coffee or whatever. It seemed to do it. And I got to tell you, I'm taking about 20 to 30 milligrams a day because I'm a big guy, and my body absorbs it a little bit differently. And I found that 20 to 30 milligrams a day for me works. Okay. And that's what keeps me off of my pain meds that I was on for 8 years. But that's me. Not everybody's going to have the same results. I got my friend Paul over in Australia, who's got issues over there. He's got some, lung issues like I do, and he'll give us his thoughts on certain things as we get into it. But tonight, Kevin Crowley, there's going to be ways that your wife should try different things, as Jessica suggests. It's trial and error. I don't think you can really overdose. I just think it's a waste of money when you're not going to get the benefit because there's only so much your body can absorb. Correct, Jessica?
Well, yes. As of right now, there's never been a case of any known overdoses.
Sweet.
So the 20 milligrams a day, you shouldn't really exceed that when you first start out, but it's going to take, 3 or 4 days. It took me about a week to see the real benefits from it, to where I was sleeping better and I wasn't getting cramps as often. But the CBD that I'm excited about is the full spectrum. And can you address that real quick, Jessica, the difference between full spectrum versus isolate? Because isolates, we have our competition out there with, different CBD manufacturers that have isolates only. And there's a lot of confusion as to because that doesn't have any THC, right? Or even less than the 0.2%.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Explain that a little bit so our listeners can get
Okay, so with the full spectrum CBD, which means contains all 483 properties within the hemp plant, including CBD, CBCA, CBG, terpenes, and a whole, just everything that you really need. And isolate, they are only extracting one property.
Okay.
So, it's compare apples to apples. If you were going to pay for a product, wouldn't you want it to work the best that it could? Wouldn't you want everything that came with that product?
Sure, absolutely.
That's how I explain it in English. Basically, you get a full spectrum versus an isolate. It's isolated, hence the word isolate.
Okay, now is full spectrum a little bit more expensive than isolate? You don't normally,
yes.
But you get what you pay for based on, obviously, if you want full benefits from it. Because, I found that a lot of people are asking me about it because they got so many different ailments. And Jessica, you're the poster person for this. Tell us a little story about how you and Kevin got involved with the CBD with Mackenzie.
We have a 16-year-old, almost 17-year-old daughter. At the age of 8 years old, she was diagnosed with partial complex epilepsy. So those of you that don't know, that is a seizure disorder. And it can take on all types of seizures, grand mal seizures, staring seizures, awful. But the worst part about it, she only had them in her sleep, and she could die. They put her on pharmaceutical medicines, Lamictal XR. It's an extended release, 300 milligrams, and she would still have seizures. So we got into looking for CBD. I wanted to give my child pot, but I had to move to Colorado.
Isn't that shame? That's a whole other podcast in itself. I'm not going to go there tonight because I'll get really violent if I have to talk about that. But so go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt. But
no, that's okay. So we started researching what could cannabis do. From that, we ran into CBD. It was a trial and error basis, but I will tell you, we have crossed the finish line, I feel. I should knock on wood. But Mackenzie completely weaned herself, and that is our daughter, off of all her seizure medication and strictly takes Pinnacle CBD at night. And she has not had a seizure in 4 years.
Not one seizure since you found it?
No, not one seizure.
And now they're trying.
I'm sorry, I'm a little shaky. That always gets me because.
Well, I didn't mean to get you shaky,
not.
Jessica. But I think it's important that people hear true testimony. So, and then you hear the things that happened this week where Alabama is sending cease and desist letters for stores trying to sell CBD for people, just like Mackenzie. And Alabama is another sore subject with me this week, and I'm not going to go off on that tonight too much.
I just feel that they're not educating enough. This industry has to be about education. I mean,
exactly.
We're never going to get anywhere if we don't start talking about this.
Well, it's the same thing with the e-liquids. When you try to get somebody to quit smoking, that kills 1,200 people a day with 4,760 chemicals and gases and poisons. And then you got the assholes in Washington and this campaign for tobacco-free kid that are trying to take away that lifeline to get somebody over the hump, because this is something that's going to help them live longer. And I just get so angry, especially when it comes to kids. Yeah, adults too, for sure. But when it comes to kids who, like you said, if you wanted to give her marijuana, for her seizures and her epilepsy, you'd have to move to Colorado.
That's my choice. I should be able to.
You should be able to, and that's why we have to be strong in our activism, with people like you who have found an alternative medicine that does not require you to have to go through a doctor who's going to give you this pharmaceuticals to addict her or do more damage to her body parts and to organs and to blood cells and things, because we don't know all of the ramifications of the prescription drugs coming from big pharma, as you well know.
Oh, I do. I watched my daughter live it. It was awful.
Well, it was awful with my son. It was awful with my son. It was awful with me being hooked on OxyContin for 8 years because of the tractor trailer accident, or the tractor trailer that hit me back in 2010. And I've had 4 cervical surgeries and shoulder replacement. And you know the story, and I think the listeners probably know. I would still be hooked on OxyContin, and I would also be hooked on other medicines, including fentanyl and things, and obviously Dilaudid and Percocet. I haven't had one since July of 2017 because of Pinnacle. Now, could other CBDs help? Maybe, but not unless it's a full spectrum. So that's why I'm, looking at people who ask me these questions. Well, what's it for? Well, it's for a lot of things. It's for, kidney problems. It's for liver disease and migraines and mood swings and, nausea and PTSD and skin conditions. That's why you got topicals. And that's why it's so important that Jessica, you and me and Kevin and, the Pinnacle family get out there and do the education, whether we have to do 3 podcasts a week just on CBD, or we get you and Kevin to be able to answer questions that people have from call-ins, because I certainly am not an expert. I'm a user of CBD, but I'm not the expert that you and your husband are, and your research and the clinical trials you have. But I think with all the questions that people have, we're not going to answer them all in one night. And I know that this is something new for you because you're usually not out there trying to get attention, but I think you have an opportunity, especially having met me, knowing that I'm pretty aggressive and I'm pretty gregarious, as you are, and we just need to work together, and we need to get information out there with the help of Steve Mathis, and we need to get it global. We need to get it in Australia. We need to get it in New Zealand. We need to get it in England. We need to get it in Canada. And things are changing, right, Jess? Things are really changing in Canada because it's going into cannabis as of October 1st. Paul's going to tell us a little bit about what's happening in Australia as far as CBD over there. I mean, they're having enough problems right now with e-liquid. They can't even get nicotine in there without, having some blessings from the Pope, I guess. I don't know. But Jessica, you and Kevin, when I say this, I mean it. You took me off the streets in January, February. You gave me hope because I was about 10 minutes away from saying, screw this whole industry, whether it be for vaping or wellness, because I didn't know what I was doing. There was just so many negative things happening in the vaping community with, people rearranging chairs on the ship that's going down. There was so much implosion going on and inner fighting. I said, screw it. I'm just going to go rescue animals, rescue dogs and find homes for them. But then you guys came along as, one door closes and another one opens up, and I opened the door right in your face in Carthage, and you brought me out there, and you gave me a lot of hope. And that's why I think we're good together, your family, and I feel
we adore you, Dave.
I'm proud to be a part of what you do, and I want to get this into the hands of everybody who needs wellness, who needs homeopathic or alternatives to pharmaceutical drugs that are just destroying people's lives. And my daughter's a mortician, and she's seeing 2 and 3 deaths a week from 20 and 25 and 30-year-old young people who, get hooked on the oxycodone, and then they can't get it, so now they have to go get heroin. And it's just a shame that if we don't rise up and get very active and start doing some civil disobedience to stop states like Alabama this week. You heard about that, and I know Kevin's been on the phone with stores down there where they want to ban all CBD, even if it doesn't have THC. You can't even wear a damn shirt that's made of hemp or a pair of shoes that's made from the hemp plant. So we got to change it. We got to rise up, use civil disobedience, and help the kids and the adults who need something other than expensive pharmaceutical drugs that medical doctors are putting out there every day. And then we looked at down upon like we're losers. Every time I would go in to get my oxycodone, for my, every prescribed, I get looked at like I'm a drug user, from the people behind the counter. I did, swear to God, and I'd go in there, and then if they didn't have it, then you have to go to another drugstore, and then they look at you like you're an addict because you're getting your oxycodone. And there are certainly people who do need pain meds, and there are certainly people who are legitimate prescribed medicines for them. But I'm saying that you need to try other alternatives like CBD. For me, it worked, and I know for a lot of other people, just like vaping worked for 10 million people. So, Jessica, you're going to be with us every week or every other week, I guess, and whenever you can possibly do it, because you're going to have to bring us news from the CBD world that I can't stay on top of. You see it every day. I'm out there, trying to do the best I can in activism and advocacy. As you know, you and I go to shows together with the, people from Pinnacle, and we get to see you next weekend, I believe, in Kentucky. I guess where they make bourbon down there, right, in Kentucky?
Something like that.
But I just want you to know that you are a part of this. You sponsor my show. I go into the guise of Pinnacle CBD as an alternative type product that's going to help you live longer and enhance the quality of your life. So is there anything you need to say, Jessica, before we move on to other things that
No, just if you're skeptical, ask questions and try it. It's better than big pharma.
I mean, I would be skeptical, yes. and I know that Kevin, probably cringes when I go to a booth and I try to explain CBD to somebody because
he probably cringes when I do it.
Well, because there's just so much to learn, and there's so much to absorb, and there's so many benefits, and you don't want to mislead anybody. And people ask, is it detectable in a urine test? Because I have a job where they drug test me, and then you get the people who say, well, I've used it for 2 years and I've been drug tested and it never shows up. But we're not doctors, so we can't mislead anybody. We can't guide people down a path. So we have to be very careful with what we say. That's why you said earlier, education is so key to this. Education is so important. And that's why Kevin and you, Jessica, don't want to just send this out to anybody and everybody in stores unless they're going to do the education that goes with the responsibility of selling this product to their customers. And I'm a firm believer in that, because not everybody can manufacture and develop CBD in full spectrum with the kind of extraction methods that are going to be best for the benefits of what you want to get the entire 483 different benefits from it. So Jessica, you and Kevin have my utmost respect and love, and I adore you guys, and I look forward to a long lasting relationship with you, and I want to see it in every part of the globe that we can possibly get to. So we're in this to win this. We're in this together. And Jessica, you come back with us every week, and we'll get all of the bugs worked out on our technical side here. At least that's what we're not paying Steve to do. Right, Steve? But this is a labor of love for all of us right now, but we are looking for other sponsors that'll help us get this message out there and the education out there. So keep that in mind. And Jessica, we love you. Thanks for being a part of this. Say hello to Kevin for us, and we'll see you next week. We're going to try to get a little bit better schedule as to how we do this every night, and because it's going to take a couple days to get downloaded. But I think one of these days.
Well, I just want to say thank you to all of you for allowing me on and letting me be a part of your podcast. I'm very grateful.
Well, it's our podcast. It's our podcast. And Steve, is there any way that we can go live sometime as far as down the road, do you think?
Well, based on this platform we're using at the moment, it actually make it a lot easier. So to our viewers, we've been jumping around a little bit, or I shouldn't say viewers, listeners, soon to be viewers when we start adding in some video elements, but we're working on it.
Okay,
and I'm going to wear a bag over my head.
Hey, before you go, Jessica, you could hang on the show or you could hang up because I know you got a family, you got a bunch of kids and a couple dogs, and you got a poor dog in heat, the poor Izzy.
Oh my God, no.
Is Figley still
Please
bothering
don't.
her?
Oh, yes. If humans were this way, I would already be in prison.
Okay. Well, you tell Figley to behave himself, okay? And to,
No, I'll ship him to you and let you tell him.
so you can either hang on and listen to Paul and I and Kevin and Steve, or you can go do your thing. I know you're busy, so it's up to you.
Actually,
So,
I'm probably gonna listen in for a while if that's okay.
okay, jump in anytime. Yeah, absolutely. It's your show too. So, thank you for all this information, and I know
Thank you.
we're just scratching the surface here, but I think that it's important that people understand that we do have the place to go to get answers to questions we have, because unless you Google everything, you're still going to get, different opinions. And I'd rather go right to the source, and that's you and Kevin. So thanks for being a part of this. And let's move on right now to my good buddy, Kevin Crowley.
Sir, I'm here.
All right, you had a busy week, my man. Your vaping news had so much this week that I couldn't keep up with it. You're talking about e-cigs may reverse the harm of smoking, and that's in your
Yes.
and also there's more than 10 million vapors who now use e-cigarettes, and
10 million. We're hitting the big time.
now 10 million that's also dual users, right?
Both, right?
Okay.
Now we say 10 million. I say it's 15 to 20 in the United States, and
Right.
the ones that we don't know about are the ones that aren't listening to us.
Right. Okay. So we don't know. We don't have a true figure. It's just like the
Right.
American Diabetes Foundation says that there's about 50,000 Americans who have diabetes and don't know it.
Yeah.
And all I say is, well, shit, tell them. Tell them. It's the same thing. How do we know how many people are using? Because it's just like those damn youth surveys that the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids does. They're not legitimate. They're not true. They're saying that we're down to 8% of kids smoking. I know it's down, but it's certainly, as far as I'm concerned, having talked to kids all the time, and I'm just a big kid in prolonged adolescence myself, somewhere about 16, 18, 20% are still smoking. And it's even getting worse now because everybody's attacking the Juuling and the Boulder Rock and the Fix and the Blue and all the things going on. But so we don't know if 10 million is really a good answer, but we know it's more than 12 people. Okay. So
Yes, correct.
Now you also started talking about the starter kits, where we shouldn't be limiting the amount of nicotine levels in starter kits. Where did that come from? I know I just read a little bit about it.
The starter kits, I'd have to scroll down for that specifically. I think it was England.
Okay. So it was England, where they're saying that you shouldn't, bring the nicotine levels down in starter kits, because that's the same philosophy I have. And that is, when smokers quit, you don't want to go right from quitting smoking down to 3 or 6 milligrams of nicotine, because it's not going to work for them. They're not going to get the satisfaction until they psychologically and physiologically can start, exponentially reducing amounts when they're ready, depending upon their circumstances. Am I right?
Yep.
Okay.
This was actually Belgium.
Belgium. That's okay.
Here's I got twofold for this thing. Just like with Jessica earlier with nicotine strength. This part I do know. I started at 18. Thankfully, if I was on 12, I probably wouldn't have had this work. I would have thrown this thing out like a bad egg.
Mm-hmm.
So when they're limiting strength and they're going for the higher end mods, which is fine with me, I don't care, and you're going to 3 nicotine, the survey I did with Alan Beard, he took my survey and someone else's survey, and he said, now wait a minute, you started with a higher nicotine and a starter type kit, and you went to a mod and you dropped your nicotine down to nothing. Well, turns out 3 years after we did that, the government decides, well, wait a minute, you're getting more chemicals in you because you're doing it 3 times as much.
Right.
So the nicotine strength on a new little old lady or a little old man walking into a vape shop, and you hand them a $200 mod and say, here, try this. They got to play with the coils. They got to do this and that.
You got to be a damn engineer, right?
Yeah. And when I got the blue, or I'm sorry, I got a Juul the other day because I wanted to be addicted. So I got the Juul. I tried it. It's Nick's Salt. I don't know about it. I just thought, well, what the hell's the big deal? So I tried it. It was too harsh for me, throat hit. And I gave it to a friend's son, and he emailed me this morning. He goes, this is working great for me. I've smoked one cigarette today. Imagine that. He's 23. He's been smoking since he was 14. So the Nick strength is extremely important. The Juul has its one strength. They're going over to the UK and they're dropping it to 20 for Nick. So I'm not sure if it's going to work for that. Anyway, that's an obvious thing that some of the vape shops don't do. They go 3, 6, 9, and 12, and it's ridiculous because they're trying to sell high-end mods, and I ain't scared of any of them, and I think it's bullshit. So that's that.
All right. Well, I just think I encourage everybody to listen and subscribe to the Vaping News. And what is the link for them to sign on or get on to see your news every week? Because it's snippets and it's good overview. It's it doesn't get lengthy and boggy down. Where is it? Vaping News what?
Vapinglinks.blog. That's it.
Vapinglinks.blog. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And the other thing that I wanted to talk about, you're talking about, you asked a question and or somebody did, and you reported on it. What happened to the war on smoking? Isn't that, that was a very, that was cool because I looked at that, and I said, yeah, shit, what did happen to it? Because it used to be the war on smoking, and now it's not. Now it's the war on vaping, and the smokers have just been totally forgotten, or the vapors have been totally forgotten, and which brings us to my friend Paul. I don't know if he's still, Paul, you there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
You drunk yet? You drunk yet?
No,
Hey,
I wish. G'day, Kevin. G'day, Steve. And hello, Jessica. Finally good to meet you. No, I'm here.
Oh, it's
Paul,
great to meet you.
He's from down under, okay? And Paul's from down under.
I know, I love his accent.
Don't you? And Paul
dang.
and I connected about a month ago, and I was over in Australia with Simon Chapman, and Paul. Just to give you a little reminder here, Paul's been a part of our family for the last couple of weeks because of my interest in Australia and Paul, based on the crap that he's going through. What's happening in Australia, and I'm just going to give the thumbnail sketch and then you take over. Vaping in Australia is a no-no pretty much. But smoking, that brings us to the point. Cigarettes are fine, right? Cigarettes are fine over in Australia. You can buy them wherever you want. And tell us the story, what's happening in Australia one more time for Jessica and new listeners we have.
Okay. The easy way I can put this to everyone is that here in Australia, cigarettes are fine, even though they're plain packaged and taxed to the absolute hilt. That's two things. Third thing is every 3 to 6 months, they decide to put the price of cigarettes up by 12.5%. So
12.5%?
Yeah. A regular packet of cigarettes now is anywhere between $35 and $80 a packet, depending on what you smoke.
Holy crap.
And when it comes to vaping and e-liquids, one of our states, Queensland, they have a dob in a vapor hotline where you can actually ring the Department of Health and dob someone in for having nicotine in their liquid. And in Western Australia, you've got a bigger problem. The fine over there for vaping with nicotine in your liquid is up to $45,000 or 10 years in jail, depending on how bad you're going to get thrown under the bus.
Unbelievable.
And what's happened here recently, the last podcast we touched on something, and we had a bit of a change in government. Our Prime Minister, which is similar to your president in the US, got thrown under the bus, and we've now got a new Prime Minister, being Scott Morrison. But in that, we had certain players within the government, one being our health minister being Greg Hunt. Now, he stepped down from his position as the health minister. And
that was about 10 days ago, right?
Yeah, correct. And yeah. I thought he was going to be put away from that job, even though he was still part of the government. I thought he would have been taken out of that job and put into a different position. But lo and behold, he got put into that job yet again. So our fight is real. he came out publicly and has said that nicotine will not be allowed on his watch in vaping, in e-liquids. So we have to import our nicotine to add to our liquids. So that's the crux of it.
All right. So the health minister, Greg Hunt, from what I recall, was there under the auspices of Turnbull, the other prime minister, and he said under no certain terms was vaping going to be allowed under his watch, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And then last week or 10 days ago when they had that, we were on the podcast when you got the news that the parliament was, falling, and he had 7 cabinet members resign, or 2 or 3 or 4 of them resigned, and Turnbull left, and then they were all reinstated, and unfortunately Greg Hunt was one of them. Okay.
But the thing with Greg Hunt is he's not a doctor, yet how does he hold the position of health minister? He's a lawyer. He's a lawyer. Right? How does this even work?
Well, this is what gets us all upset, and that's why Kevin Crowley has to get bail money. He's got to get a crowdfunding going for my bail money, because I'm getting so angry, and I'm not saying this so Jessica and Kevin Lacey get all upset thinking I'm going to embarrass them, because I never would do that. But there's got to be something that we do as far as civil disobedience, or something that we can do together. And you and I will probably do a Zoom next week where you and I will talk about, what we can do. We'll do it as a stealth, because I certainly don't want to bring anybody down with me on this, because I'm above the opinions that other people have of me. And, Steve Mathis, I know that you're going to be heavily involved with the production that we're going to do, and we're going to do little mini documentaries, and we're getting funding for that now as we speak. And of course, Kevin Crowley will be my writer for all this. And I just want to make sure that everybody has the support, or gives us the support that we need, because Australia, you're having 60, 70, 80 people die every day from tobacco-related disease. Is that is that approximate?
Originally, the figures were around 54 a day, but looking at what's happening now, smoking rates are actually increasing. Mm-hmm. You look at the lower socioeconomic here, it's still increasing. It's not going backwards. And vaping started, the government actually thought that going back a couple of years, go back to 2014, that it was all their plain packaging and the tax increases or the hikes that were actually bringing the numbers down. Wrong. Mm-hmm. When vaping became popular here in Australia around 2014, early 2015, people were switching out. You walk around the streets now, you see people vaping all over the place. You walk past a smoker and they look at you and they say, "Oh, that shit'll kill you." Well, I look at them and I go, "Yeah, okay, but I don't smell like ass." Yeah. This is Kiwi strawberry.
So basically, this is something we talk about every week, and that is, are we going to see any light at the end of the tunnel? Yeah, and I know you're very active over there, as I want to be as well, because we got some American, U.S. Manufacturers of e-liquid, shipping into Australia under the darkness of night or whatever, or I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure what's going on, but that's something you could probably explain better than I.
Okay. There have
without giving away any secrets. We're not.
Okay. Look, there have been a few shops that have been caught here selling liquid that has been nicked up, and all the tobacconists, they went and tested, I think it was 128 tobacconists, and they just got their generic liquids that were being imported out of China. One under the name Free Life, I think it was. All of that came back hot for nicotine. All of it. Not one sample that they actually got came back zero nicotine. It's just unbelievable. Yet, if you really want nicotine here in Australia, you're meant to actually go to the doctor and get a prescription and then import a 3-month supply. But we all ask each other, what the hell is a 3-month supply?
Right. Because for you, it's different than somebody else. But anyway, let's get to the next point, because we could talk about this for 8 days, and get anywhere because I think we're making progress. You and I are going to be doing some things. I haven't even shared with Kevin Crowley yet or Steve what our plans are going to be because we're still working out some details. But I want to get there, and I know Kevin Crowley doesn't fly, but we're going to get him all drunked up. We're going to put him on a plane and get his ass over to Sydney, and he's not even going to know where he wakes up at because, right, Cavs?
That's what I've heard.
That's what you heard? Well,
Put
you know what?
Put me in a kangaroo suit and send me straight to Chapman.
Yeah.
We just need to get some edibles on the way. We'll knock them out on the plane.
Yeah, we could do that. But we're going to do something, Paul, is what I'm trying to let everybody know. And tonight's not the night to do it. Tonight what we're doing is we are going to ask you a couple questions about things that I feel really important on. Obviously, we have answers to the nicotine problem and the vaping problem and what you have to do since your lab works and that's your business. That's what you do. But what's going on with CBD over in Australia? What's the word on the street basically?
Well, the government's position here on CBD is that you need either a life-threatening illness to actually get your hands on it, and B, you go on to a fast that can take anywhere up to 2 years before you're actually approved. So far there's about 120 to 150 patients that are actually receiving CBD treatment.
So CBD is not being sold in stores, in vape shops or tobacco shops at all?
No, zero, none.
Can you buy it online?
You can buy it online, but you've got the chance of having it flagged when it comes through customs.
Okay, and the customs is pretty strict over there from what I understand, right?
Our customs, here in New Zealand, we've got the strictest customs in the world.
Okay, so that's not something we want to pursue as far as other than changing the laws and getting it, to a point where it's becoming more acceptable like we have here in the United States finally, where like Jessica told us, as long as it's under 0.3% THC. But there's no forgiveness whatsoever on CBD in Australia.
No, they're open. Look, the government is starting to look at it now. There's a couple of ministers within the government that are trying to push it forward. We've had a couple of people here charged for the actual production of CBD and extracts from the cannabis plant to help people. But the big issue is that you either need, you're in end stage of life and you need it as an agent to help you in that part.
Stop there for a second. You said end stage of life, but it takes you 2 years to get it. Yeah. That's another oxymoron. You got to wait 2 years to get it if you're at the end stage of your life. How asinine is that?
Well, correct. Say you got, stage 3, early stage 4 cancer, and you're going through the chemotherapy route. You then have to wait X amount of time to get your hands on it. Same as recreational marijuana here. Can't do it. They won't even look at that. Again, the senators are asking the questions whether or not they can have it done, but it's our government is being controlled completely by big pharma. 100%.
Okay, so you folks in Australia, do you have cars and stuff over there? You have telephones? Are you that progressive to where they can't keep up with the rest of the world as far as...
you didn't know. I've got 2 little wheels out the back with hamsters with hamsters on them. That's how I get my internet.
And you get your internet with a hamster going around, right?
One of the hamsters' names is Dave.
I tell you, Jessica just sent a message. She was like, WTF. Jessica, yes, WTF. What the is going? This is what I've been fighting with for the last 6-8 months here. With people. Not only, forget the fact that I got stuck in Istanbul. They wouldn't let me in New Delhi, and now India has banned vaping altogether down there. Australia is not that far behind. The progressive cycle of technology, but yet they just cannot seem to get it through their heads that there are alternatives to people dying every day from tobacco-related disease. And of course, 60, 70 people dying every day over there compared to our 1,200, because we have 340 million people here, of which 42 million are still smoking those damn cigarettes. Okay, it's going to go and keep increasing for a long time, at least with Australia. And I saw that where New Zealand had some repeal of their laws and they changed it. That's what I want to do. I want to make it such a stink that we can at least get people talking about it, to where we can get our foot in the door with somebody under the guise that, who are these people who are public health officials or ministers of health, even though they're lawyers, to get them off their ass and do things that is going to start helping people live longer. So, and as I told everybody, I'm old enough to where I'm above the opinions that other people have of me, but I'm committed to you, Paul, in Australia, and Colin, and Dr. Attila Danko, and all the other people who are involved, who want to do something, but we're not going to do it just by talking about it, because like I said in Richmond last week, hope is not a strategy. We can't hope we got to make things change. We got to do things that are going to be a little bit off center, to where we get people to at least open up their mind and get the kind of aha moment that Jessica just had when she heard what we were talking about. People don't know. People do not know that this is going on, in Australia, where you think they're very progressive. I mean, they have music, they have festivals, they have beautiful beaches, they have skiing, it's a wonderful country for many, many things, but you are so draconian and backwards in this whole, vaping and nicotine thing versus now CBD, which is at least getting legs over in other parts of the country. So we want to do what we can in this podcast to raise the level of awareness. Pinnacle is behind what we do for wellness. That's all they do. That's what they care about. Certainly they need to, follow the rules. They need to regulate what is going into people's bodies. They have to make sure it reaches the clinical trial. But we have the facts with CBD over here. We just need to get that information into people who are under the guise of public health officials, make people more important than their pocketbook and the wallet that they're leading up to at the trough of financial irresponsibility.
David, I'll inject on this one. The only way that things will change here in Australia is if the government actually starts reading the proper studies that are out there, not all the rubbish that's being put out there by certain companies. I'm not going to name names. I could name names now because I've got the
save that for our show where we don't have to get, where our friends don't have to get lawyers.
Yeah. Well, I think
not that I'm afraid, not that they're afraid either, but we need to prepare ourselves a little bit for anything that we say.
Targets have always been a good thing. Targets are always a good thing to play with.
Well, hey, folks, people are listening. Paul joined our show because he brings a different perspective, not only for the e-liquid and the vaping, and I'm getting a great education. And I wanted Jessica and Kevin Lacey to hear, what's going on over there as far as CBD, because CBD over here is getting widely accepted. There's a lot of people using it, and it's going to turn. It just takes time, and it's sad that people have to suffer when they could be getting it in states like Alabama or Ohio or Iowa, but they just keep raising the red flag and saying it's still falling under an illegal category and it's a scheduled drug. So, we have to do things, and I know Kevin Lacey is my go-to guy. We've already been asked to be involved in a lawsuit against Alabama state legislature right now, and the officials in law enforcement, because they just sent out these erroneous letters without even testing the CBD. And so the things that we're trying to open up in Australia and other countries where it can help people live longer, we have to get our own ducks in a row over here first. And we have to have a complete consensus of CBD where it's federally legal in all 50 states, and then we certainly have to regulate it and reasonably tax or whatever it is we need to do. So we're all for that, but I think self-regulation is really, really important right now, that we mind our P's and Q's, we behave ourselves, we don't do anything other than speak the truth. And if I speak the truth louder than somebody else, because I'm not willing to pussyfoot around with people in the sandbox and play their games, because these politicians are just screwing it up for a lot of people. We see it here every day in the United States with our train wreck of our government right now. We can't seem to get along. But all I can tell you is that we're in this to stay in this for a while. Paul, you've got my commitment. I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus here, but I am going to tell people that this is what we need to do to help people live longer. And I know Pinnacle's behind me. VapesGoneWild is behind me. You're behind me at LabWorks. I know Kevin Crowley certainly is with
yes, sir.
His podcast. I mean, his blog.
Not shutting up.
What?
I'm not shutting up.
Well, you better not shut up. You better not shut up. And we can talk about all the things right now that's happening week after week after week, where Jewel has just become a board member of VTA. Did you know that,
yes.
Kevin?
Yes,
okay.
sir. It was in the news. Yep. In fact,
in the news.
Your pal, Tobacco Free Kids, tweeted about it. That's how that's how scared they are. That's the ultimate screen test.
Yeah. Well, before they sell out the big tobacco and whenever that happens, people like Australia and people who are concerned over there, they need to see what's happening here and what progress or lack of progress we are making, because I don't mind making mistakes in advocacy and activism, because that's how we don't have a track record to follow. We don't have a history. We're just making it up as we go along because they're making it up. So we have to adjust to their lies and misinformation and myths and bovine excrement that they are peddling each and every day. And I'm just sick and tired of playing these games. So with that being said, we have the Richmond drama that we had last week with the the National Vape Expo. We still have the Tobacco 21 rulings that are going on across the country. We have the flavor bans that are still being talked about. We have the banning of CBD in Alabama. We have the vaping ban in India. We have the Foundation for a Smoke-Free World with $1 billion that they're getting from Philip Morris. What are they doing with the money? We have Greg Hunt, who's back in as health minister in Australia. We got lots of things going on, and I'm just sick and tired of having to look in the news every day. And I feel bad for John McCain. He had a 5-day funeral, and Aretha Franklin's finally buried. And, and all these distractions that we have are keeping everybody's minds off of what's really important. That is helping people, get better, helping people live longer, and helping people fight addictions that they have, and helping people be able to, get some peace at night when they want to go to sleep with, proven methods, which in my opinion are quitting smoking, and also the protocol of using CBD as a protocol, because smokers generally aren't healthy in other areas. And again, that is not to indict smokers to say that you need CBD. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if you want it, you should be able to get it and make it available with the benefits of what Jessica and Kevin Lacey have proven, with their business platform and their model to give their customers, and we have a proven track record. Along with that, not every CBD user is going to vape, so we have to have an understanding of flavored CBD that might be palatable and a little bit more pleasant to take in the form of gummy bears or honey sticks, or in your coffee or topicals, or even for your dog. My dog takes CBD treats that I got from Pinnacle, who sends me some every month, and my dog's doing really well. He's been able to lose a little bit of weight, even though he still looks like a hippo, but he's getting down there. So I just think that we need to continue to do what we do. We need to talk about it. We need to create some excitement. And I'm not saying that these other shows that we have, like Vape Radio, which we don't do anymore, guys. I'm not doing Vape Radio because it wasn't my demographic. It wasn't something that I found to be beneficial for getting people to care. I think we need to have an audience that will listen to our show, find it titillating and interesting and educational, but also entertaining. Education comes in the form of wanting to learn more. And if we don't make it interesting enough for people to want to learn more, then shame on us. And Kevin Crowley is the guy to go to. You keep doing your vaping news, Kevin, and I don't know what you're going to there's never a loss of things for you to talk about every week. There's never
no. Never.
You never run out of ideas. So what's your next step next week? What's coming on that you're going to be talking about next week that you would like to talk about? Because I want this to be interesting for everybody, not just me.
I'm watching Gottlieb. He's still talking about targeting vape shops that have already been targeted. It's already pretty much done. Your experience over the past weekend was an example of it, I'm assuming, but they've got nothing else. They've got kids. And allegedly long-term is max 5 years on any blog or scientific stuff that I've seen. So they're really grasping at straws. Juul is still being advertised by Truth Initiative and Tobacco Free Kids and
Right.
others. So the war on nicotine is still pretty heavily involved. They're using nicotine instead. So I'm watching it.
Well, excuse me. I got a call today from, or yesterday actually, from a young man who's out in, I think he's in Georgia, and he asked us to be a part of something that I find to be quite interesting. He's involved with a music festival called Seeds of Sound Music and Arts Festival. They're putting on stages of 30 different bands, and it's all about wellness, and it's all about alternative ways to get healthy and well. I mean, it's kind of interesting, but I kind of told him that, I'm not a Metallica kind of guy. I'm not a heavy metal kind of guy. He said, no, it's not about that. It's about different family type bands that are coming together and talking about wellness and what sort of education we can have. So hopefully I can get Jessica and Kevin to, hear more about this. That may be something we want to do down the road in Georgia as far as a music festival, because right now they've got about, I think 12,000 people who are already signed up to go to it on October 4th and 5th. But they asked if I would speak down there at it. And there's different groups, like I said, but it's another way to get the word out, and we'll do whatever we have to. And I know Kevin Lacey is all about being an entrepreneur, and he's very innovative, and he's got information, but he does things that are smart. He thinks things through, where I'm a little bit more impulsive. Kevin, I think you're a little bit more of a thought-provoked kind of guy.
Yeah.
Steve, I think Paul and I are probably more alike. We shoot from the hip and ask questions.
Definitely on that impulsive side of things.
Oh, you are?
Absolutely.
You are impulsive?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. And
I've
Paul,
gotten better about it, but
I know Paul is too, right, Paul?
I'm just a naughty little boy.
You naughty little boy. All right. Well, it sounds like a personal problem. There are support groups for people like you. So, but as far as what I want to do in the future is I want to open up every possible avenue to, number one, help people not only quit smoking, but also get healthy with the help of CBD, because that's why I am in this. Okay. I'm in it not only to get people to quit smoking when they're ready and help them when they're ready, answer their questions and give them the right products that'll help them, but also help them along the lines of, helping with their fibromyalgia, their stress levels. Because let's face it, when you quit smoking, you have a lot of stress. You have a lot of anxiety. You have a lot of depression. You have a lot of loneliness. You feel like you've lost your best friend. So, CBD is more than just a wonderful, beneficial plant that gives you the opportunity to feel good. And as Jessica said, there's no psychoactiveness. There's no THC other than what's allowed by law. And of course, there are people that are using medical marijuana. I could have gotten medical marijuana with all injuries of my cervical spine and my shoulder replacement, and of course my surgery last week. But I don't need it. I mean, I don't have a problem with it, and I've used it in the past. But I'll tell you what, CBD for me has worked wonders for my family who knows it can attest to it. But we're here to educate, as Jessica wants us to do, and Kevin, because Kevin will not put his CBD out there just to anybody without them knowing what they're getting and what the benefits and the downside are, if there is any. So, Paul, you and I are going to be talking next week on our own with coming up with a plan. We'll then fill in Kevin Crowley and Kevin Lacey and Jessica Lacey and Steve, because he's going to have to be aware of what we're doing. We've got things pretty well corrected. I don't know if we're going to be on Zoom next week. That's going to be up to Steve and you, Paul, to work it out. And you just let us know, all right, what works for you. So we're going to close this down. We went a little long tonight, and I know a lot of people don't want to listen to a 2-hour show, but I know I don't like it. But hopefully you found it interesting, and we provoked enough thought to where you want to come back and join us next week for the David G. Model Citizen Show, the podcast, and we'll answer any questions. If you have them, send them in by email, and we'll be happy to get answers to your questions. So, folks, thanks for being with us tonight. Thank you to my guest, and now she's not even a guest, she's just a part of it, Jessica Lacey from PinnacleCBD.com. And any questions, contact them, contact me, contact Kevin Crowley anytime. Midnight to 7 in the morning. He'll be awake to answer any of your calls. Right, Kevin Crowley?
Yes. I'm studying how to fly a plane.
Okay, well, we're gonna sign off tonight, and just thank you so much Get in a plane first before you learn how to fly it.
Oh,
You
okay,
know,
okay.
take a ride to DC for a 40-minute jump. All right.
Ugh.
But anyway, we'll talk more about the Seeds of Sound Music Arts Festival in October down in Georgia. We'll talk about a lot of different things that we can address in the future. And thanks for being with us tonight. Look forward to seeing you each and every week at the DavidGModelCitizen.com podcast. And thank you one and all for being here with me tonight. Have a good night.